Hi, this is Will Marshall, and this video is to explain all the features of the Ableton DJ template that I produced for the Akai APC40. You can see here. Now, just for clarity, this tutorial video mostly discusses the DJ Template Pro, which is the new supported version of the DJ template, but most of the things in here will be applicable to the older DJ template. I'm just going to discuss some of the new features in the DJ Template Pro that are not yet available in the DJ template itself. Now, for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm assuming that you've already got the template installed and configured correctly. If you haven't, there's another video on my Vimeo account that discusses, it's called installation, and it shows you how to get it, how to set it up, how to make sure it's configured properly. So if you haven't got to that stage yet, go check that video out and then come back to this one once it's all working. So when you first bring up the DJ template, Ableton, this is the interface you get. You can see the dark themes installed, and you can see I've got the APC40 on. The lights are red, which is one of the ways you can tell the APC Advanced script is on. I've got the template open, obviously, and if we look here, you can see I'm using the APC Advanced Control Surface script. So the general layout of the DJ template is actually quite straightforward. You've got 4 decks, 1, 2, 3, 4, and these are mapped to the first 4 channels on the APC40. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see that quite easily. These 4 decks all get grouped together, and then they go through these 4 dummy clips channels. These are 4 effects channels, and it goes from this one to this one to this one to this one, then out to the master where there are some repeat effects, and then out to the PA. It's pretty straightforward. Now the decks are kind of like a hybrid of a CDJ and a channel on a mixer. So they have all the clip controls that Ableton has. They also have EQs and 7 effects on each channel that are independently controlled. To select a channel, obviously use the track selection buttons here. So I'll quickly show you the effects. FYI, the track I'm using to show all these things is a track, it's a remix of one of my tracks called Circuit Funk, and that's by a French producer, fantastic French producer called Marto Peter. If you're interested in the release that's on, it's kind of posted on my website at the moment, the Anaconda Circuit Funk EP. It's available on Beatport. It's my first release. It's doing quite well at the moment, so if you like the tunes, feel free to go get a copy. So the EQ controls. These are standard DJ EQ3s, but they're laid out slightly differently on the APC40 because to conform to the way the APC works. So I'll bring up a track and show you where all the EQ controls are. Firstly, bass, you can see, is on the fader down here. Mids are on the bottom of these knobs up here, and highs are on the top of these knobs up here. And of course that's repeated across the other 4 channels. So for channel 2, this is the bass fader, and these 2 knobs here and here are the mids and highs respectively. Now one thing you'll probably notice is when I started playing this track, we've got the stepper running across here, we've got a volume meter here, and we've got a volume meter here. Now the stepper here just indicates where you are on the bar, so it's counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and shows you where the downbeat is. Really handy when you're using complex effects that are kind of make you lose where the drop is, or maybe in the middle of a breakdown where you want to still sync things up. The volume meter here is just for the current channel, so you can see as I drop the fader it fades, and as I bring it back up it shows the volume. The volume meter up here is for the master, pretty much as you'd expect. It's all very easy. Now once you understand the EQs, on each channel we've got 7 effects and 1 cutoff control that actually modulates those effects. Now I'm not going to go into too much detail about how this works under the hood, but the cutoff basically splits the audio channel into 2 halves, the high frequencies and the low frequencies, and the effects are all applied only to the high frequencies, which allows you to isolate the bass, make sure you don't ruin your kicks and your bass line by applying effects to them. This is rarely a good idea, but still apply effects to the top. So I'll just run through the effects really quickly so you can hear what they sound like. We've got a fade to redux, radio, pumping, metallic, pitch, beat masher. Actually, I'll do that on beat so you can hear it. And lastly, probably most importantly, we have the fade to grey control. This is a classic studio effect, was used to end tracks constantly, and it's a great way of bringing tracks in and out very gently to get very smooth, kind of techy or housey or maybe even breaksy mixes, if that's your sort of thing. It's immensely useful. Now we'll discuss the decks. The next thing to look into is the dummy clips over here. Now, as I mentioned earlier, these 4 channels all get bussed together and go into the dummy clips, where it goes from left to right and then out to the master. These dummy clips are all on the crossfader here. So if the crossfader is on the left, none of that audio gets sent to the dummy clips. You can see that down here. It'll go straight out to the master. If the crossfader is on the right, all of the audio gets sent through the dummy clips and then goes out to the master. So you can cut the effects in and out really quickly with this crossfader here, which I do a lot of. It's kind of right there. Most people are right-handed, so it's very easy to manipulate really fast. You can kind of cut the effects out in cool patterns. Now, a dummy clip, again, I don't want to go into too much detail about how these work, but if you're interested in finding out more, Tom Cosm has some good videos explaining how to build your own dummy clips. But basically, these are effects patterns that you can play. Some of them loop endlessly, some of them, like these ones, these builds, play through once and then stop when they're done. So to control the dummy clips, you can just hit a button like this, and then it'll either keep playing or it will turn itself off. Pretty straightforward. You'll notice that these stop clip buttons at the bottom of each channel go dark when you've got a clip playing on one of the tracks, and when you hit stop clips here, when it's turned off, it goes green again. If I have, say, 4 of them playing at the same time, I want to turn them all off, I can just hit the stop all clips button, and that will turn them all off together. So bring up some audio and show you kind of how these effects work with the crossfader. So put the crossfader on the right. This is a build effect. Some flanges, pretty straightforward, some delays, some beat repeat effects, pretty easy to deal with. The next thing you've got across is the scene launch buttons. Now these scene launch buttons are what's called momentary controls, which means while you're holding the buttons down, they're on, and when you let go of them, they're off. So you can't accidentally leave them on, you can't forget about them, they're always there. You just press them and they're easy to use. Now these scene launch buttons are on the master, so they affect everything that's going out to the PA, and they're mostly beat repeat effects. So I'll go through them in order. We've got what I affectionately call a dubstep button, which halves the speed of the music coming through it. You've got a half bar repeat, a 1 beat repeat, a half beat repeat, and a quarter beat repeat with a decay on it, so it lowers in pitch over time. Pretty straightforward to use again, but very handy. I use these a lot for little fills and stuff like that. The next most important feature is probably the looper. So if you hit this button down here, actually I'll explain these buttons very quickly. On each of the decks you have the stop button, pretty obvious, the select button, also pretty obvious, the Q button here, these ones here. These are currently actually set to the solo buttons because my sound card isn't plugged in, but if you've got your audio card configured correctly, they'll be Q and send the audio through to your headphones. The 4 above are the bypass buttons, don't worry about them right now, and the bottom ones are really cool. They let you select the currently playing track in that channel, so you can see that and that. Lets me switch between, and if I had it, say, on the effects, so I could see the effects there, hitting that would bring up the waveform so I could see where I was in the track, what was going on. It's immensely handy. Now, while I've got a track selected like this, these 4 buttons here, so the activator buttons, the ones that go green when the lights flash, these are for looping control. So from left to right they are loop on or off, that's just a toggle. Set loop starting point, this one's really cool. It actually watches the play here, this bit here, and when you push it, it puts the start of the loop brace to the playhead and then rounds it to the nearest downbeat, the start of the nearest bar. So it always puts it at the start of a bar, but it puts it at the closest bar to the playhead. And then you've got the loop halve and the loop double. So these 2 buttons here, halve or double the loop length. And if you hold down shift, those buttons actually move the loop around with shift held down. So you can turn it off and on, on and off. You can set the start point, you can halve, you can double, you can move left, you can move right, and it always moves by 1 bar when you move it left or right. Really handy. I did that because Ableton doesn't, out of the box, have very good loop controls at all, and I've tried to copy the Truckdraw Serato style looping as best I can in Ableton. And it works pretty well. If you take the loop lengths down really small for kind of fast beat repeats and stuff like that, it won't work that great, but you're actually better off using the beat repeat plugin if you want to use those sorts of effects in Ableton anyway. Okay, so the last kind of big feature here is the send controls. Now, I don't personally actually use sends very much, so the send effects I've got in here are kind of just demos, you know, they're there to demonstrate that it can be done, rather than because they're ones I would necessarily use myself. But it's pretty easy to control them. You've got the send A button here, send B, and send C, and the 4 bottom knobs map to the 4 decks you've got here. It's pretty simple, so I'll just, to bring up send A on deck 1, you can hear that. Send B, the reverb you can hear there, and send C. Very easy to deal with. I strongly recommend you look into send effects, and maybe some delays and some reverbs and stuff like that might be nice things to put there. And one thing worth bearing in mind is you can actually use dummy clips to send audio off to the sends. You can have cool effects on your sends and then send stuff off to the dummy clips with that. This last dummy clip channel here actually is an example of how to do that, which is really handy. So, okay, some overall generic stuff. If the stepper isn't working for you, go into the stepper channel here. You can see that there are 4 external instrument plugins, and make sure that the APC Advanced, the APC40 is selected in the drop-down. If it's selected in the drop-down and grayed out, you want to open up that drop-down and there should be another one in there and select that. It's just because some computers call the APC something different, so it works on mine, and when I send this template off to someone else, the APC's got a different name on their computer, so it can't find it. So you've got to make sure those 4 are all set, and then push the stop all clips button, if in case you haven't recently, and this stepper here should be working just fine after that. A lot of people ask me what warp mode they should use. I strongly recommend using repitch, which is kind of like a turntable, just pitches the audio up or down as you move the tempo around. That's the mode with the least, well, there's no quality loss when you do that. If you want to keep the pitch the same, although I don't think it's actually that important, you can use Complex Pro, which is the probably the best. But if you're confused, make sure to Google Ableton warp modes and really understand what they all do. Most of the problems new Ableton users have come down to misunderstanding how to correctly apply warp modes, and so choosing the wrong one and accidentally ruining their audio. A few other little bits and pieces. To control the tempo, Q volume knob, this one here. It's the only endless encoder on the APC40, and it gives you reasonably fine control over the tempo. And you can see that up here. It's straightforward enough. And yeah, I think that is everything. So thanks for downloading the template. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any feedback or something, stick it on the comments on my website. If you're a pro member, you have been given a support email address, so if you have problems setting it up or you don't understand something, you've got a support email, just send something through and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And I hope you really enjoy using your APC. Thanks.